Already, 4 minutes in, off the cuff. The way this guy is talking and rambling, I find it amazing. Amazing. There's enough idiots listening to this guy. Okay, let's face it. What guy you know talks the way he does, curse the way he does, that really is informed? No, real talk. Ignore. Before I even get into everything he's saying, just look at how he's talking. Goddamn this, goddamn, the evil this, all these motherfuckers hating on me. Like, seriously, off the cuff, 5 minutes in, who you really think? Like, name one person outside this YouTube video that you know in the streets that talk like this, that got, like, is on it, like, really on it. But I digress. Let's go on. Ugh, okay. This is like what, 5 minutes in. He made a comment about Israelites were the most evilest people in the face of the planet. That's wrong. Even the Bible said that people of Sodom and Gomorrah were the worst. So bad that he had to destroy them. Like, that was a very pivotal point. The only people that was more evil than Sodom and Gomorrah are their people before Abraham time, when he flooded the world. That's when everybody was just pretty much bonkers. The Bible was very distinctive and specific about this. So for some rando just saying that off the cuff is just random. It's just stupid to me. Like, the Bible already made the distinction of who was the worst. What the Bible didn't do, go into specifics how bad it was, but part of the narrative that he's facing is like, oh, the Bible is proving some of this stuff. Well, you're already wrong, because the Bible made it really clear, very clear, early on, the two most evilest places and what happened to them. First being the world before the flood. Second time being Sodom and Gomorrah. Every other times was the Israelites did a lot of evil stuff. Don't get me wrong, did a lot of evil stuff, but God, like, addressed it, but he never put them in the same bar as Sodom and Gomorrah. At one point, he did say that, their evil would reach in there. He commented on it, but no one else. So I don't know why he's saying that. 8 minutes in, and I automatically think this guy is a freaking fool. Like, oh my gosh, where to start? Where to start? He gave this, like, retarded chart, right? And then he self-imposed Judah as the chosen race, like the chosen tribe, which is funny, because if you know anything about, like, anything, you know that Abraham had kids, right? And I don't know if you guys remember the story of Isaac and Jacob, right? Jacob had kids, right? Isaac had kids. One of the kids, which I believe was what was it? Was Joseph. Joseph was the one that went to Egypt for the first time. Joseph was the first person to go to Egypt out of slave trade, right? Well, he wasn't the first, but he was the significant person that went to Egypt out of slave trade in the way his brothers sold him out. And then from there, he started moving through the ranks and officially became the right-hand man of the king. In doing so, his brothers, the town where they're from, were starving. Because they were starving, they needed food. And that's when Jacob confronted them. Long story short, made nice with them, and I'm paraphrasing, made nice with them, and then brought them into Egypt. Okay, that's the Bible. Brought them to Egypt. And of course, because, at that time, it wasn't considered Israelites just yet. Just saw it as Abraham. Abraham was like what they call himself, because he was the leader. He was like their patriarch at the time. So what ended up happening is, because Joseph had such a high ranking he was a right hand. He had rights that other citizens don't have. So what that means is he built a place for them to come, to migrate into. And years and years on in, their population became bigger and more stronger and more powerful and more prominent in Egypt. The reason why all that changed, because the Egyptians saw that, like in a very short years, there would be the predominant race or the predominant tribe or people in Egypt. And Egypt's like, now let's enslave them. And at this point, all the people that remembered what Joseph did, all of them are dead. Just like all of them are gone. So no one really remembers what made his family and his, like, lineage significant. Okay? So that's what happened. And that's when the tribes of Israel came in from there. Okay. So the point, and that's where you got the Judas and all that. So the point I'm trying to make is it's crazy. It's crazy for this guy to say this and ignore the whole story behind why the Israelites even made it to Egypt. Like how they got there, the significance of them getting there. It's insane to me. Like, it's insane to me. This guy's so stupid. Like, I automatically just like, I'm amazed at how stupid people are out there. Because like, oh, this is in the Bible. If you care to read it, which is another thing I would touch on. You know, the problem I have with like people like him is the fact that like all the Christians, like I don't care what sect you are, I don't care if you're Baptist, Methodist, whatever, all the Christians, about maybe 18% have read the Bible. 18%. On top of that, only about 8% consistently read the Bible. So what I'm trying to tell you, amongst Christians, there's likely only very few people who actually practice and read the Bible. The rest are just, they take little snapshots here and there, and then they lose their minds. And that's why it's so easy for guys like this to fool people. Because a lot of people they could fool is people who don't know any better. You know? And it's so funny how also, is this thing that black Americans do? Like African Americans and black people do, they're not African, where they put Egypt as like the top shelf of Africandom. You know what I mean? Like they make Egypt feel like it's like it's the gold of Africa, and so it's such a sophomoric approach to Africans. Like it's such a very stupid thing to say, because like, don't get me wrong, Egypt has significance, obviously in the Bible and just in history. It wasn't the only one. Like, in fact, almost every major country in Africa has had their day and had their ultra significance. If you look at it as just like, I'm studying Africa, you're gonna realize, oh yeah, Egypt did this, cool, that's nice, the pyramids are cool, but yo, did you know Ghana did this? Yo, do you know Nigeria did this? Yo, do you know South Africa did this? Like, and that's the point. It's like, it's such a you for anyone to hold Egypt as a high regard is an indication of how much you don't know about Africa. Like, you know what I mean? It's like black people get mad when white people do all the time. It's like, for example, it's like a white person holding Cali into like high significance. Like, Cali is everything. And then to like the average American's like, yo, have you heard Washington D.C., my nigga? Like, have you heard Virginia, like home of the first president? Like, have you heard of New York? Like, really? Like, have you heard of Texas? Like, you know what I mean? It's like this funny thing that black people do that I think is hilarious. I think it's so hilarious because like to most Africans, it's like, oh, you're an idiot. Like, there's not much to say about that because you don't know enough. That's why you could hold Egypt to high top shelf. Anyway, let me continue with this fool. I'm already 9 minutes in, and I'm like, ugh. Okay, 16 minutes in, and I'm amazed. Well, I'm not amazed. I get it. This guy doesn't understand the genealogy. He's not accurate with the genealogy, and he just inserting things and personality traits and curses that never existed in the Bible. Like, I don't understand. And this is what I mean about like not reading the Bible. Like, if you don't read the Bible, this sounds legit. Like, you like, yo, this guy's speaking facts because he says so much confidence and he seems to be like so accurate about things. But he's not. He's not. The genealogy is off. The so-called curses is off. He will then tell a story, and this is the key part. A lot of people do this. They'll tell a story about something that most people remember, and they'll switch it. They'll put things that wasn't there to push their narrative. So to someone who's listening, like, yeah, I remember that story. Yeah, I remember Noah. Yeah. And then if you don't read the Bible, they insert stuff that he put, like, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't recognize it. So without going word for every stupid thing that he just made up, just to talk, or connections that he made, he's no worse like than flat earthers and QAnon theorists. It's the same concept, actually, where they will see something that's fact, that we all know is visually fact, right? They switch it a little bit, and then they create stories and backgrounds behind it to make it sound like something completely different. And if you don't know anything about those particular things, for example, you don't know that about U.S. history or the government, you start believing it. Like, yeah, that's not about right. Yeah, so you're saying that the civil rights wasn't about slavery? No, it was about, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's how that works. And it's so funny. Like, when I see, like, honestly, it's nothing funnier than seeing confident ass black people who never step foot of their city talk about Africa. That to me is so hilarious. And the way this guy talks is like, it's so funny because like I've never met is personally I've never met a guy who talks like this who's actually smart, like has some real stuff to say. Never. So like I find it funny because I'm watching it. I'm finding it funny that he like has followers. I'm like, oh wow, I do know there's a lot of idiots out here, but damn, like that's your leader. You think in a debate with like Christian scholars, you think he'll do well? No, he's gonna sound belligerent. Every time they hit him up with something that's wrong, he's like, nah, that's the wrong Bible you're reading. I'm reading the Talmud. Like, they're gonna be like, well, we're reading the only text that ever existed. I actually understand the language. I decoded it myself. So, can you do that? No. Okay. So, do you speak Arabic? No. Aramaic? No. But you are so confident about what you're saying, huh? Okay, cool. And that's what a religious scholar would do to this guy. It'll destroy him. Because it's like, it's easy to destroy someone who doesn't even know how to say the facts. You know what I mean? Anyway, I digress. This guy, I'm annoyed I have to do a whole hour on him. But watching this guy for a whole hour, this is annoying. But I'll do it for science. Or, religion reasons. So, I'm listening to him now. It's like almost 16 minutes. And he was saying, so he like saying himself, like, I don't like, he names all this stuff and he's like, I don't even care, it's all fabricated, it's all lies. So anyone who has sense, if you're saying something and then you like quoting what you say are facts, right, to prove that there actually are wrongdoing in those facts, why would you then later on say that those same facts were actually all fabricated? Meaning they're all lies. That doesn't, it negates everything you're saying about that specific subject. For example, if I told you, well, corn syrup is actually made in Kansas and is actually kills people, not like sugar wise, but like more like it kills people. Like if you pour corn syrup inside water and drink it, you will die in 2 hours. Then if I said, but all that's fake, all that's lies, like corn syrup doesn't really exist. You're gonna be like, so what's this pouring corn syrup on water thing you're talking about? So if none of this is all true, like why is corn syrup not even the true thing? Like what's all this other stuff you've been talking about? If the source you're saying is just wrong regardless, where are we going from there? And I think that's the problem. To a smart person, to a stupid person, this person's spitting fire. Like this person's spitting straight fire. To a stupid person, like this guy's on it. But like to anyone who has sense, it's like this guy's an idiot. And it's like amazing that people listen to idiots. Well, I do know people listen to idiots. That I do know, so I get it. But the charisma, of course, I love his charisma. Like that level of like ignorant confidence, I love it. It's like the kind of confidence that you see street dudes have when they fight professional boxers. It's like that level of, you don't know me, I'm in this streets, man. I've been whooping. You know what I mean? It's like that same level, like, like that's what it looks like. Like, yeah, to other street niggas, that nigga could fuck anyone up. But to a boxer, this guy's gonna die. He's not gonna be. Why did you put him in the ring? Anyway. Yeah. Another thing I want to comment on, now I'm 20 minutes in, is his take on like the historical narrative of the Old Testament is so funny to me. He's looking at it as in the modern eyes, which sounds stupid. For example, he's here like making all these like statements about like having multiple wives and like that was common in their society. The same way like I could tell he's a weedhead. Like that's like if the old people look at the people here like, man, you guys medicate a lot on alcohol and weed. Like, it's the same concept where like you can't if you evaluate a zeitgeist, which is a time and location, without understanding the significance of that time and location, automatically you're lost in the sauce. And he's doing that. So, like, for example, I'm trying to the best way I can adequately address this. Is his ignorance of not understanding like what time was now is why he does this. His ignorance actually is the reason why he's doing all this. For example, it takes a specific kind of idiot, right, to think in the term of here and now in evaluating our history. You know what I mean? It takes this like here's my critique on like a lot of black people, right? Black people in America really think they're the only black people that exist. Like the way they carry information and talk about race and all this other stuff, anyone hear them talk, they'll really like you think like, yo, you must be the only black person out here. The reason why I'm saying that is all this is an anti-trope to why Christianity is not for the black man, right? Even though Christianity was urged in and created for the people, God doesn't see race the way we see race. That's a social construct that we created, and when we create like a time span of years, what I mean by that, he talk about slave this and slave that, like Egyptians and the Israelites were the only ones who've been enslaved. Like China enslaved people. Like everywhere in the world have enslaved people. Like once again, that's that zeitgeist I'm talking about, time and location. It's the inability to understand that was common practice. Defeating a nation or a place and then turning them into slaves or murdering them was common practice. Just what people did. The same way in the 1700s, having black people as slaves was a common practice. Doesn't make it right, obviously, but you gotta understand that the people, the way they function, they didn't have YouTube, they didn't have they were educated, don't get me wrong, but education is dimensional, meaning that you only know specific things. You're not educating everything. You can't be. The reason why I'm pausing to discuss this is the lens in which this guy is talking from. Is ignorant. Like I said, to an idiot, he's amazing. But it's like a smart person is an idiot. Because he's here like conflicting information, judging evil based on culture and society. And it's a stupid thing to do. Where he hasn't stepped foot in the U.S. and it shows. Like, because if he has, he understands that even until now, there's people who have multiple wives. They do it. You could say having an opinion says it's right or wrong. You could say it's wrong. I don't personally agree that that's how he thinks you have to be. But, like, I won't sit here and ignore it. Like, oh my gosh, can you believe they're doing this? Yeah, I can. Yeah, 2,000 years ago, yeah, there's a lot of things I can believe. They didn't have TV. They didn't have YouTube. They didn't have rules, the social media. They didn't have, like, tablets. Like, there's a lot of things they didn't have that will narrow your perspective the way it is, making your perspective so narrow. Like, it's like when women talk about, like, can you believe how men treated women? Yeah, we didn't really need them for protection. They needed us. It was a complete power struggle. Like, we had the dominance for obvious reasons. Like, to ignore that is stupid. It's like to talk about, how like men have been in war. Yeah, men were war. Yeah, that's what's common practice. You want land, you just take it. There was no civil way to go about it. People didn't like you enough to be civil with you. Like, so to evaluate history and not understand those obvious perspectives is crazy to me. So I see this guy giving this false chart once again of like Jacob marrying multiple wives. Yeah, all of them did that. Like, what do you mean? Like, the more prominent you are, the more wives you have. They still do that in some parts of Africa now. Like, talk to people that's doing it, which I have. Like, if you're even around those people, you realize, they're just normal. The wives don't even complain. The wives don't have the mindset that women have now to be like, this is wrong. So them like, what? That's fine. I have companionship. Some of the people that marry they're friends. Like, some of them are, and like end up being friends, and it's like a companionship. Not saying it's right, but that was the history. That's how things worked. And also in the harsh times like that, in the very like difficult time like that, like strength in numbers was just understood. Like, women, they didn't really care. As long as I could cook, my husband could protect me. Yeah, bring as many wives you want. Like, they don't have the social construct we have now to say, hey, I want to be the only person. It just wasn't a thing. So for him to say it and make judgments, it's like, oh, you're looking at this from 2021 random black guy perspective, which is a wrong perspective. You gotta look at this as like a global perspective, as a zeitgeist perspective. Did it make sense then? Yes. It's like explaining someone 2,000 years ago. Do you know people just go on the tablet and they just talk to it? Like they're gonna be like, why would they do that? Because they understand how video recording works. It's the same concept, man. You can't just do that.
David too. You don't know yet, David too. We don't get because that is even more wicked. You understand that whole?
This guy's wild. This guy is an idiot. Okay, so he was at minute 22. He's talking about like Judah's first two sons being murdered. They're the royal bloodline of God. That in itself just sounds stupid. Why would God murder them? It's like God is saying, why did God let Jesus die? Technically, in his world, why did God murder Jesus? See, to make that statement is to ignore who Jesus was. You see what I'm saying? It's like to understand that Jesus is the person who will atone for your sins. Jesus was God in flesh to do God's will. On top of that, he wasn't murdered by God. He was murdered by other people. People are just wicked. And one thing about the Old Testament, you guys need to understand. The Old Testament was not written for you to be like, oh, this is like, it's literally just a story. It's just people documenting history from their perspective of Israelites. Like, things that they saw, the things that they noticed or whatever. And then it's combined into a Bible. Because the reason why it became a Bible, because through all that, God was with them. Through all that, they were talking to God. Through all that, God was showing miracles. That's why the Old Testament is in there. So to see, this guy, first of all, sounds like Uncle Ruckus. Like, this Uncle Ruckus voice, tone, and mannerism is crazy to me. Like, I'm listening to this guy, I'm like, wow. All right. So, I digress. So, for me, he's so stupid. I don't even know, he's stupid. No, he's stupid. It's this ability, like, someone dies, automatically God killed him. Like, you know what I mean? People get murdered in the Old Testament all the time. There have been wars and wars in the Old Testament. There's infighting in the Old Testament. Prime example, you know why Solomon became the next king after David? Here's a fun fact. David had multiple wives. Even though he didn't learn a lesson from the first time he did that, right? And guess what happened? The kids of those wives were fighting for power. They started murdering each other. You understand? Solomon feared for his life, but loved God. Said, God, give me wisdom to navigate this crazy world I'm in where my brothers want to murder me. And that's what happened. Now, what you need to understand about the Bible, Old Testament especially, it's just people being people. There's nothing that anyone in the Old Testament did that's not human nature. The difference is the significance is how some of them reached out to God and how God attended to some of them. That's all it is. Old Testament is pretty much just a history lesson, unfiltered. That's what I think people need to understand. Like, that's what makes it so authentic, because it's unfiltered. It gives you the gritty. It gives you the information that you didn't expect from the Bible. David was a murdering mother effer. He was one of the toughest fighters you ever written in history about. David was a fighter. Like, he could fight. He could kill. The Bible didn't code that out. He just kept it where it is. But he loved God, so God protected him. Plus, he was protecting his Israelites, even though he had a king that wanted to kill him. But yet, he still had pride for where he's from, even though he got love from the people to kind of separate if he chose to. This is what it is. So this idiot, just nail this on the head. This idiot talking about people being evil is like literally everybody was evil. Everybody had evil ways. So to like narrow down specific people is silly. Because like anyone who read the Bible knows, everybody did their own level of bad. It's human nature. I'm pretty sure this guy talking is no saint. I could look at him and be like, I could just stereotype him and be like, I know the kind of dumb stuff you're into. Like, I could just look at you and tell. Like the young you was, because some of that still lingers. You can see the lingering effects of the younger him. So it's for him to sit here and call, this guy was evil as a motherfucker. I'm looking like, dude, you were no saint. I could tell that. But I digress. Let's go on. This last time I want to talk on this subject, but this guy keep hammering it in. the Israelites' story arc is consistently of them doing against what God said. That's just normal, and that's human behavior. Same way every human being that is ever gonna watch this video did things that God told them not to do. So for him, like, honing down on Judah is such a silly thing, because one, it makes it seem like everybody else were saints and they were only problem. It's not the case. Everybody was evil. Everybody was evil. Human beings are evil. And also, another thing is, he reads the Old Testament like there's people in the Old Testament are supposed to be saints. No, that's the problem. Like, no one in the Bible is saints except for Jesus. Like, there were great people like Moses. There were people who became saints, but no one was without blemish except for Jesus. And that's important, because if you understand that, then it will make sense. Like, it's really common knowledge. What human being you know is a saint? These people are human beings just like you, just born in different times and navigate the world differently. For example, and another thing that he's going to talk about, and that's what I mean about like modern lens, this 2021 random black guy lens, is the fact that like when someone's wife dies, the brother takes over the wife, like marries the wife. That's just how things are, because people that was cultural thing. But he doesn't understand that, one, he has no culture. And that's a dig, but he deserves it because he's an idiot. He has no culture, one. And two, like, he forgets, like, this is over 2,000, over 3,000, over 4,000 years old. Almost over 5,000 years old that he's talking about. So in his head, he cannot even separate, like, he doesn't have the, I guess the intellectual faculty to understand that 5,000 years ago is not anywhere relatable to 2001. You know what I mean? And a piece of me wants to know this guy's background, because I want to stereotype him and say, let me guess, you were a street nigga, you held a few guns, you done a lot of dumb things, you done a few drugs, and you got your life together somewhat, and you're making videos. And the reason why I want to do that is like let you know like how flawed he is as a person, and also like the amount of work. It doesn't take a lot of work to get on YouTube and say things and like cherry pick items and not even have a coherence to like understand the context. You know, there's conspiracy theories all over YouTube, and a lot of you guys will watch the conspiracy theories and you're like, yeah, this is a conspiracy theory. They're just pulling random shit together because it sounds good. It sounds good. Don't get me wrong. That's what conspiracy theory is. A theory is something you could just put together that sounds good. So, like, he's doing the exact same thing, and what bothers me about this is, like, he doesn't have the intellectual faculty to understand, like, the nuance, the obvious nuance. Like, yeah, that was a cultural thing. You making a judgment 5,000 years ago on what people did there is insane. It's like me making a judgment on you that, hey, you're not an educated person who said motherfucker all the time, who sound like Uncle Ruckus, but yet expect people to, like, respect you intellectually. Like, to me, like, that's insane. Like, it's insane. Let's go on. I'm gonna hone in on what he said here on minute 31 because I think it's interesting. So he starts off by saying that God, that this Canaanite woman is like cursed, right? And then he himself believes in God. That's the weird part. But yet he again says that like God was evil and killed Judah's 2 sons. And I guess I find that interesting, because then what are you saying? Are you saying God is evil, or are you saying the Canaanite is evil? Because according to you, God is evil and the Canaanite woman is evil, and also Judah's 2 sons were innocent but evil, and then it died. Like, there's no cohesion to what he's saying here, because here he started by saying the Canaanite woman is cursed, yet in the context, it doesn't really prove how she's evil. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't say anything that says like she's evil. And then the second brother didn't want to sleep with or slept with the woman, but didn't want like, get her pregnant. And then God put him to death according to the way he put it. And I'm like, It's like so many ways to address this, but I don't know where to start. Like, God did not do anything. People do things, and then like people do things, and then it's interpreted as God, but it's really people. Um. Anyway, I'll touch on. I'll just keep going. But this guy's there's no correlation. There's no coherence to all these three things he's saying. You can't say God is evil. People are evil. Then like people like Canaanites are evil. And then somehow you believe in God, but not the Bible God, but your own like self-proclaimed logic, reason. Okay, it's just dumb. I'm now 15 minutes in. I'm exhausted from hearing this Uncle Ruckus voice ass dude talk, but he just rambled and talked about genealogies and how all these people were bad and like what's the word, was wretched in their ways and whatnot, which is literally true, but so is everyone else. Like, I don't think people understand, like the Old Testament was just I can't emphasize this enough. Old Testament is a story of people documented that had God in it. You learn a lot from their mistakes, which is sin and evil. You also learn from how they approach certain things. One. And then he talked about all the genealogy that Jesus came from, a genealogy of whores. His words, not mine. And I'm like, well, because he said Joseph was Jesus. Joseph is Jesus' father. Technically, Joseph was Jesus' stepfather. And if that's the case, then all the things he's been rambling about is literally just null and void. Because Jesus didn't come from that line. Joseph did. But we all know that Joseph didn't give birth to, like, it wasn't created by Jesus. Jesus wasn't created through Joseph. God put the baby in Mary. And no one knows the historical genealogy of Mary. Nor does it really even matter. It doesn't matter. Everything he said doesn't even matter, and a lot of it is false. Like I said, he cherry pick stories in the Bible, cherry pick them without any context, and then he does like his own thought on it, which is exhausting because I see how a lot of people do that. He's not the only one, so I'm not saying this like he's the only one. A lot of people do that. The only problem with that is it's such an easy way to do anything. Like, I'm gonna use the whole like the masks are not real. Like, you shouldn't wear mask logic. Same concept. You take anecdotal evidence and you say, see, this is why we shouldn't wear masks. Masks doesn't help. Well, like, why? How could it help? It's the same concept. We're like, everybody know masks help. That's why the medical world has been using them for almost a century now. And then you just think all of a sudden they don't work. Like, shut up. Like, they do work. But you're cherry picking one situation. Oh, it can't breathe properly. And you know, if you can't breathe properly, oh, then you don't have oxygen to your brain. You don't have oxygen to your brain. It's like this like hyperbolic chain of logic that's incoherent at best. Where like, I see what you're saying, but intellectually, that's a forced equivalence. And he does a lot of that. He pretty much cherry pick places in the Bible to read. And then on top of that, the Bible tells you the story of what happened to this particular people. And he's like, see? So like, at the end of the day, I'm not even sure if he doesn't seem like he believes in God. So like, I'm trying to figure out what's his angle. Because if that's the case, then we have a whole different conversation to have about that. So I don't want to get there yet. I want to finish this video. I got 10 more minutes. I'm going to finish this video. Then I'm going to give my full analysis. At minute 56, he talked about a story in Matthew when a Canaanite woman came to Jesus, and Jesus said pretty much paraphrasing, but said that what he's doing is giving bread to kids and not to dogs. And anyone who knows Jesus knows that Jesus says things. He says things every moment he has to teach something. He teaches it. So when she came up to him and she said, "Oh, but even dogs eat the bread when it falls, right?" And Jesus is like, wow, women of faith, I bless you. Pretty much, he cured her. And the reason what people don't understand who Jesus is, Jesus was controversial all the time. But most importantly, every opportunities for him to interact with you, there's a lesson that needs to be learned there. And what he was trying to say, so reason why the Canaanites were considered like not decent people, because they didn't believe in God, just like this mother effer right here. He's literally the same people that he shits on. And so for them, and it's not just not believing, it's the practices that happen when you don't believe in God. You know, you don't believe in the moral equivalence. You don't believe in the objective moral view. You know, that's the kind of stuff that happens. So of course, if you're a Canaanite, imagine Canaanites just like all these like flat earthers, LGBTQ, like all types of like reckless people, drug dealers, all of them. That's what they were. That was what they practiced. That was just who they are. So to Israelites, they're not like us. They're dogs, because there are dogs in the moral sense. Like they just do whatever. You know what I mean? And the reason why he said that, let me land this in. The reason why he said that is to test how, like, we'll see how she respond. And the way she responded was wise, meaning that even though she's a Canaanite, she believes in Jesus is God. And that was the message behind that, is that naturally, it's like almost like an atheist. Somebody you know to be a well-known atheist, right? Of course, then they come to some service. You're going to look at them like, yo, aren't you like an atheist? It's like, yeah, but I came to service because something happened to me and I need to know more about this. That's the same equivalence. Where she's from, her people don't believe in God, don't believe Jesus is real, don't believe he's the man, don't believe on that. But she left all that to meet Jesus. So when Jesus looked at her, it's more like a little like, okay, I see you here. I know you're a Canaanite woman. You know, I'm here for people who believe in me. What are you doing here? She's like, it's like, even though I come from a place that don't believe in you, the crumbs of what you have done led me here. And that was supposed to be poetic in the sense of like, Jesus knew why she was there, but he wanted her to say it so that what people could learn from it, see her response. Because on that thing, you know, if you talk to people who are Christian minded, you tend to just have more wisdom. You see them have more wisdom than regular folks. Like you automatically get those. It just comes natural. And this is a prime example. You see how that was the real story, but you see how he conflicted it into his own logic, because he's an idiot. That's what he does. He's an idiot. And he keeps talking about like Jesus coming from prostitution, and it's like Jesus didn't come from Joseph. So the whole genealogy logic is already tossed out the window, because Joseph didn't give birth to Jesus. And also, even if he did, it wouldn't even matter, because people sin. That's literally why Jesus is here. People sin. Everybody from Moses, everybody sins. Like I don't understand this. And their sins is different based on the context of the situation. And of course, no one's documented all types of people that sin. And I'm looking at this guy too. And there's one thing I want to say. Look at this guy talk about like, you know, some fathers like having like multiple wives and doing all types of stuff. I look at him like, what do you think your ancestors did? You think you got here? You think you're a saint? Like, I'm pretty sure you got some white in you. You're too light skinned and stuff like hair not to have some white in you. Most white people we know in slavery time were raping all types of black women. So what are you saying? You're complaining about the exact same thing that's in your own blood. It's insane. I just don't get it. I don't get stupid people. Okay. I just watched the whole video. I think I'm going to keep it short. I'm going to say like 2 minutes worth of review after seeing the whole thing. One, according to what this guy is saying, he's an atheist, right? I'm guessing. Which I could just address that, but that's a whole different video. If you want me to do that, I could do that. But that's a whole different video. Secondly, everything he says was incoherent, not factual. And on top of that, his main arc, and this is how you know someone who didn't read the Bible, his main arc is that everybody in the Bible did something evil. Then on top of that, he evaluated things that happened 5,000 years ago into modern times. So like for me, one is, so here's my biggest problem is I can't even address this in a way that makes sense because the idiocy about it is so pervert, is so strong, is so well rooted that you can't like answer just one question. So like, let me show you a trend of debates. This is how the theory of debate works. I can't, if we're debating, both of us gotta agree that we're on point A. What does that mean? That means if we're agreeing that the water is not wet, we gotta at least know that water is something that you drink. Like, right? We gotta at least agree on that. But now, if we're debating and I hear you say that water is not water, it's actually sand, then we can no longer debate on A and A. I gotta come back to C. I gotta see how you got that, then bring you to B, and then we go back to A. So in the same metaphor with this guy is, he says a lot of things that are so nonsensical and so not, and so many things that's not factual, and then he cherry picks information, and then he doesn't understand the core context of the Old Testament, which is just a historical narrative that has by the guide on the central view. That's all it is. Meaning that, and it's not written. It was not written when people were writing this. They're not thinking. They were not thinking 1,000 years, 2,000. None of that. They weren't thinking of 4,000 or 5,000 years later. They were not thinking about, and they definitely weren't thinking about some random guy on YouTube reading this and telling us what he thinks about it. That was not their mindset. So they kept it as real and honest as they could get it from the people that said it or it happened to. They'll just wrote it down. And then some random person takes it with not enough intelligence or education to even understand what context means, then pretty much just randomize his opinions on it, like his opinions all over the place, and then ignore the core point, which is the fact that traditionally, especially 5,000 years ago, people had multiple wives. Traditionally, people were a lot more violent. Traditionally, people were a lot more treacherous because they didn't have laws. They didn't have rules. Someone wasn't in TV. They didn't go in school where they were taught things. They were on survival mode day in, day out. And they had the little land. You respected the owner of that land because he had money and he had weapons and he had like sheep and stuff. So to ignore the context and then just say something based on the 2001, I don't know where this guy's from, but I know wherever he's from, he never stepped out of that city. It's just so obvious from the way he talks. Then you hear this Uncle Ruckus voice person just say all types of stuff without any context. It's insane to me. And here's another thing you gotta be very careful about, and I'm gonna end it here. When someone gives you a perspective without a counter perspective, or with any kind of information, it's like, why even listen to that? Like, I can't even get mad at him. He's no different from, there's so many conspiracy videos on things that people know that's not true. Though there's a conspiracy theory on video right now that Hitler loved black people. So like, but if you hear the person explain it, you might almost believe him if you're an idiot. Like, if you're an idiot, you probably like, you can see the logic behind it. So this is the same situation. There's nothing else to say. I think I answered a lot of things I think I addressed a lot of things that he said. At this point, I'm the most impressive thing about this is that enough followers, people are listening to this and agreeing to it. To me, that's the most impressive thing, because I walk around just thinking most people are idiots, but like I ain't thinking they're this level of idiot. Anyway, that's it.